I'm double recording on this monster computer I got here. So Zoom's recording, and then I've got OBS recording. So no matter what, we'll have a recording. So we got a backup. So
Cool.
so yeah, so either Jerry or Brenda or Brian or somebody, if we want to just start off, is there any club business? Somebody was talking about a competition image. They had a question about the sunflower thing. So is there anything that we want to mention about that?
So the competition closes October 1st at 10 p.m. This is our first competition being judged by a PSA judge, Photographic Society of America. So it's a big jump up for us in quality. So that will be awesome. And so those need to be entered by 10 p.m. October 1st. And you do need to be a paid member. And Jerry has posted out on both Facebook accounts and sent an email out today about that.
Yep.
And so far, there's no entries in novice. So great way to win 4 PSA points. And then there's, it's not official PSA points, but some wins. And then there's 11 entrants in advanced. So, and then Denise is going to enter. I would assume Larry Kilgore is going to enter. Mark, you had some great photos. I would definitely make sure you enter.
I plan to, at least a couple.
Good.
Okay, because you won one of the divisions in the test.
Yeah.
So
I didn't realize I won.
Well, yeah, you got sent your certificates.
Yeah, you should have got email
with all your certificates in it, and and your scores and your rating by the judge, your comments by the judge.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess when you say won, do you mean I placed?
No, you won one of the divisions. I don't remember which one it was.
Well,
but there's there were 4 things: open, nature, books, and.
Okay. I thought I took a second and a third.
I don't think so. I don't think so. So
I'll go back later and check that out.
Yeah. So, but make sure you enter, and you can enter the things you entered in September. This will be the only time you can re-enter something you've entered before.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because September was a fake. It was just a test.
It was a.
So I won a fake certificate.
Yeah. Congratulations.
That was sincere.
No, you really did. You really did have some good stuff, though, Mark.
Really, really nice. I was like, okay, who's this guy? I got to figure him out.
Yeah, it was the first time I seen some more of your stuff, So.
November 1st will be our next competition. It's already been added to the competition site, so you can enter. You can enter that, and then as soon as we get people into those, we'll start December, January. We just didn't want to make it too confusing until everyone's familiar with it. So the idea is if you have something in one of the January categories, you can put it out there. You can always change it right up to the last minute. So that is the competitive site. There's 2 free memberships to be won. If you already are a member, you can give it to somebody else, or you can add it to your membership. It's how many times you enter, and if you do a photo in Critique Corner, and if you could critique the photos in Critique Corner. And so far, no one has done anything in Critique Corner, so it'd be very easy to win $25 membership.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah.
That's it for me on announcements. Is Doug on to talk about our workshop, our next workshop in 2 weeks?
No, I have not heard from him. So, and I hadn't heard anything about any other workshop plans.
Jerry, I'm sure you know something, Jerry.
I haven't heard anything so far at all. I'm waiting for, I haven't heard anything upcoming.
I know Saturday, this coming Saturday, which is the 3rd, I believe, Doug and Lindsay Tuck were going to go to Pokagon State Park up in Angola and record some video about macro shooting.
Okay.
But I didn't know if they were planning on doing that as a workshop, presenting it as a workshop, or just making that information available to the club, because they were
I,
recording it ahead of time. So I hadn't heard anything on what the plan was for that afterward.
okay. I can message Doug and find out.
Sure. Okay. So, anything else club-wise? Do we have anything else?
This
I don't re-
Saturday's the photo walk. Scott
Oh,
Kelby.
yeah.
And
Do you have to
walk-
take, do you have to take the photos on Saturday?
Yes.
I know it can be
Yes.
it can be any time on Saturday though, right?
Yes.
Right. It has to be on Saturday to enter them. In his contest, you pay $5 to join and the money goes to charity.
Yep.
And then you can win all sorts of stuff. And the thing that they're giving away that I want, fat chance, but I would be excited to win, is one-on-one training with Scott, with all of his photographer team. They're all offering a one-on-one training. So you get a Skype training on your photography with Moose Peterson for wildlife.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
landscapes
great.
with, yeah. So that's what they're giving away. So, and
Okay.
as well as books. On their landscape workshop, I won an entire set of all of Scott Kelby's books.
Yeah.
Oh,
lucky
wow.
lady. Woo.
So they're giving away a lot of great stuff because they can't, because it's all
Yeah.
remote, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jerry, do you want to talk about dues due?
Not much else to say. I've already sent emails out to people. If you've got a personalized email from me, then I've confirmed that you've gotten, that your membership is paid. We do have access to the bank account again, so I've been making deposits. Okay, I am currently
Oh, that's good.
acting treasurer, so I have access to the bank account until
Okay.
whenever Gala's available.
Okay.
So as those come in, I will deal with those. We still get PayPal stuff comes in through us. So if you want to submit through PayPal, that's perfectly fine. But I still get stuff mailed to me. I think everybody may have gotten an email about the dues coming up. So the email I sent out about the competition was a bit lengthy, but it has all the information in there, how to join. The membership application was attached, and the rules for the PSA Nature was attached. So that went out yesterday also, I think. So we're just waiting for people to reply.
Okay. That sounds good. I don't really have anything, so I'm ready to start whenever.
Okay.
Great.
Let me pull over. There we go. And we're going to skip past the stuff that we did before. And everything's going to be all in one. From the Google Slides presentation, that's going to be sent out as a PDF. And I'm going to type all the notes at once. So just in case there's anything added tonight, I can take the notes from last time and anything from tonight and make some quick edits and then push this out to all the members on the group page. And I think we've got our, let me go over to the members page and I'll pull that over on the screen just a second. I think we've got our files tab. Jerry, we had talked.
Yep,
Yeah,
it's
there it is, files tab. Yeah, we had talked about that before. So where we can upload things, we probably don't want that to get like super cluttered, but
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
so that way we can point people over there to get it, so they're not like, oh, I'm downloading this from an email and it's it's just right there. That Facebook is like that hub for us. So we're going to go back and take back off where we left off. So Lightroom. Lightroom allows you to organize and sort your images a bunch of different ways, but tonight we're going to look at everything in Lightroom from a top-down view, kind of overall, and talk about how we use Lightroom. There are several different ways to go about it. And then we're going to get in and look at the sorting and tagging organizational features that are in the Just a second, got a couple people hopping on last minute here. And there we go. Okay, so we're going to talk about organization in Lightroom in the library module specifically. So there's two different ways to go about organizing your images in Lightroom. There's one catalog only, or there's individual catalogs. And we'll go back to this slide. Lightroom one catalog only is where one catalog that includes all these different folders. So in this scenario, the catalog is like the library building. So you can, the catalog memorial library. So we've got our library graphic over here to kind of visually help us remember how this works. So the library building is the catalog. And then you are the librarian. You're the curator. You're the person who organizes everything. And images can come into your catalog, but if you don't make, and we're all of a certain age, so we all remember the actual physical card catalog, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone who's younger, who's playing along at home and watching this at home afterward, the card catalog is all those little index card sized little things in drawers, and you would look through and you would find the name of the book and the location, and then you would use the Dewey Decimal System to go find it on the shelf. So yes, there was life before Google. So you have to be the librarian that creates that card catalog. You have to create and curate the system of organization within Lightroom. And so if you don't do that, you're not going to have ways to go back and find those images later. So it's an important skill to learn how to use and how to go about it. So in this scenario, all of your folders in Lightroom are the bookcases, and all the photos are the books. So this is, again, an analogy. So all the folders are your bookcases. So let's say you have a folder of a certain date and your original RAW files. The folder itself is the bookcase. It holds the books, and the books are the photos. So does that make sense? So everybody
Mm-hmm.
kind of visualize that bookcase is the folder that holds everything, and the photos are the individual books. So if you want to find a book on the shelf, you're going to have to name and label and tag and make a way to find that book later or find that photo later. So hopefully having the graphics here and those explanations are going to help solidify that in our mind. So the other way of going about using Lightroom is every event or client gets its own catalog. So we got people coming in. Teresa's coming in, and then Irene again. There we go. So if you go about using Lightroom as using individual catalogs instead of one big catalog for everything, which Brian, you had messaged me, and we'll have that conversation off to the side. Yeah. If you want to use individual catalogs, every event or client is its own library building with a self-contained set of keywords and tagging. So the keywords that you use to search for images later are specific to the catalog. If I do this type of workflow, I'm going to talk with my hands type of person. If I do this type of workflow and I want individual library buildings for each one of my little jobs, each has their own catalog. If I search for Smith family, and I want to find their sunflower image, and then their woods picture, and then their barn picture, I can't go search in if I've got a separate catalog that's like all my personal stuff, I can't go searching for the Smith family paid session in my personal catalog. So searches for keywords and dates and any kind of text describing the file, anything like that, a year date code that I assign to it, I can't use that in another catalog and look to find the Smith family because they have their own catalog, their own little library building. So you're probably asking yourself, why the heck would you do this? Why would you choose a workflow like this? For me, I do a workflow like this because I'm a very one and done. Shoot it, edit it, and I'm done. And if I want to go back and find those images later, I have a really good hard drive organization system, and I have a really good visual memory for like different wedding venues and stuff that I work in, and just remember clients really well. So, you know, I could go back like the past 5 or 10 years and I could just look through my archives of all those weddings and I could go, oh yeah, they were at the hayloft, they were at the hayloft, they were at the hayloft, and go pull images. But if you're not that type of person, who can, hearing some, I'm hearing noise in the background. I don't know what that is. Anyway, okay, distraction.
Why don't you mute everybody because somebody's got dogs and stuff in the background. They're not muted. Yeah.
Give me a second. I'm gonna stop and mute. No, not. Some people are already muted. Ask to mute. Okay, I got everybody muted but me, just for a second. So I'll keep looking over here, and if you have a question, give me a wave. Okay. So why would you do this kind of workflow? For me, it's one and done. I have a good memory for things. I'm not searching back through my personal archives and trying to find a specific photo. It also depends on what size of hard drives you use and maintain. I'm probably going to go to kind of a hybrid straddling between these two worlds where I have a big personal catalog for all my personal stuff because I'm actually shooting more for me now. Hey. And then individual catalogs for paid work because it's one and done. Shoot it, edit it, it's out the door. I'm not messing with it again. And I'm good about sending images to wedding vendors and things like that that need it like that time, and then I'm done. And I archive a folder of stuff that I sent to that vendor separately for that event. So, and I have like some folders, like things that I've sent to different venues over the years, so I can always go back and grab them from there. So to me, like curating and having this monster hard drive of like all these old weddings that I shot, no thanks. But for somebody else, one big catalog for everything, or one catalog for business, one catalog for personal, might make sense. Anybody have a question? Nope. Okay. All right. So pros and cons. One huge catalog versus one-offs. So one huge catalog, the pros are you can be a good curator, a good librarian, and you can start building a way to search for images and events and things in that one big catalog by adding keywords, naming images, and being really good with not only your digital asset management, your hard drive organization, but also tagging and using the organizational features within Lightroom. The con of that is that it's a very large catalog file to back up and load. As some of you are starting to find, like Brian, and I would imagine Brenda, you have a pretty huge catalog going on. Jerry does a lot of sports. They have a huge catalog going on. Anybody else have like massive, give me a wave if you feel like you have a massive, huge catalog. Brenda, William. Okay, William, I'm gonna unmute you for a second. Let me find you. William, what do you have going on that you have such a big catalog?
I have a lot of video.
Oh, video, yes. I remember I think you'd mentioned that before. Okay, so yeah, that'll do it. Those are huge files. What is this type of workflow or what type of person is this good for? It's great for journalists or people who have any kind of high volume that need to pull collections of images later. Sports, shooting a ton of landscape or wildlife, and you want to be able to search and find your images later. You want to be able to pull all your different, like Brian does all these bird photos, birds in flight and wildlife photos. You know, maybe Brian wants to search for all of his photos of a specific kind of hawk because he can't remember what date he shot it on, but he knows it was a red-tailed hawk and he wants to, that makes me sound like I know what I'm talking about. I don't with birds, but anyway, red-tailed hawk, and he wants to find all of his red-tailed hawk keyworded images, and then he knows it's in there somewhere, still on his hard drive, and he needs Lightroom to help him find it. If he's been a good librarian through the years and he's used those keywords and assigned them, he's going to find all those hawk images and find what he needs. Cons, some people don't need to organize their images like a librarian in order to pull them for later use. Some people just like have that memory and they're like, oh yeah, that was back in 2017. I remember I was out at Eagle Marsh and I happened to be, that was the last year I drove such and such car. I remember that. I can find that. Some of us are at a certain age. There's no way I can remember that. So it can be cool to have this huge catalog. It's a bit to drag around with you our digital lives. You know, we start accumulating and we have this, I imagine it like, you know, pushing the ball uphill. Sisyphus, you know, pushing the ball uphill. You've got like this digital life that you're dragging with you everywhere. That's probably not the right analogy for that, but you get the point. Pros to it. For single event client catalogs, the catalog is going to load super fast. So this is like the type of workflow that I do for paid work. I do the single library building, the single catalog for each event or paid job. So that catalog loads really fast. The other thing is I have cloud backup, I have RAID backup with my hard drives, but I also do a manual backup over on Amazon Cloud Drive, which if you're a Prime member, you have that feature. So I will actually upload the catalog with all of the originals, all the edits, all the Facebook size, all the web size for my website, all the Instagram resized ones. So having all of my originals and having the catalog file, if somebody comes back to me 2 months later and they're like, or 3 months later, or a year later, and they're like, we're finally getting around to printing these. We think these look a little weird or wonky, or we think this is over sharpened, or for whatever reason. I could download all those originals back to my hard drive. I could download the catalog back into Lightroom. I'm good to go. I'm back where I started, and I have all my edit history, everything, and I could redo something. So for me, for weddings in particular, I really like having a single event or client catalog for each of those paid jobs because I can just quickly download their entire catalog and it has all of the edits for every single image in there. And I can be right back where I left off editing and redo something, or look for a missing picture of someone's grandma who knew we were doing pictures after the ceremony and left and got out in the parking lot talking to somebody or taking a smoke break or whatever and disappeared and wasn't in pictures. I'm just saying, it's happened. So the cons to that is you can't label and search multiple events. If I want to go back and I want to do a blog post of all my favorite pictures from the hayloft, that's on my mind because I have a person who's looking at the hayloft as their ceremony site and stuff. Anyway, so if I want to do a blog post all about sororities and what I love about sororities, which you should be doing, by the way, I should be better at it. Blogging is great for search engine optimization on your website. So, but if I want to go and pull all my favorite cake images, or if you know, even just for doing wildlife or landscape, if you want to go and Brian, I'm using you as an example again. If Brian wants to pull all of his red-tailed hawk images and he wants to talk about how much he loves shooting birds in flight and his favorite place to go here in the local area is out at such and such place, and he wants to put all of his favorite red-tailed hawk images in a blog post about it and talk about wildlife photography and what he loves so much about it. If he's doing single event catalogs, you're on your own finding those images later. And so, you know, he might want to do a one huge catalog so he can just quickly find them and say, okay, export them at such and such size so I can put them the way I want them arranged on my blog. He may not want great big full size images. He may want to generate a specific size. And it's easy to do that if he's doing the one huge catalog. So my way of doing these single event catalogs, I think works really good for just backing up events and stuff. But you have to be real on your toes to keep track of stuff. So the biggest thing for me is I can reload the entire project later for a redo. So I have all the originals. I can go back through images that weren't even flagged as keepers, and I can look for that grandma who wasn't even in any of the photos. I didn't miss taking pictures of her. She was in the parking lot having a smoke and talking to people, and then she left. Anyway, Lightroom, import everything or only select. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to quickly unmute everybody. We're going to talk about this topic. This is important for people who have just a lot. Has to unmute. If you don't want to unmute yourself, that's fine. I think I got everybody. Okay. I think I got most people. Anyway, if you want to chime in, let me know. Lightroom, do you import everything from your originals or only your selects? Is there anyone here who uses a third-party software to cull your images prior to Lightroom, like Photo Mechanic?
Oh, I did.
We covered all this before. Did you want to repeat for the people that maybe weren't here?
Yeah, maybe. Just real quick. We did kind of briefly cover this at the very, very end last time. So Photo Mechanic is a third-party software. It's not the only thing out there, but it's pretty darn fast. I think it was Jerry. Was it Jerry you mentioned you use it?
I use something different, but something similar.
Oh, yeah, you use the Nikon thing. Yeah. So
Yep.
similar.
Have you tried Lightroom since they improved it? Because it's lightning fast now.
Well, here's the thing: it's not just the speed of Lightroom in flipping from image to image. It's whether or not you even want that junk filler in your catalog.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you can always click X to reject and delete them, and you can choose to delete them from disk. So there's that. So that is a valid point, Brenda, that you can bring everything in.
Yeah, no, I don't load everything into Lightroom. I go through it first and then import it.
Okay, and what are you going through it first with?
Lightroom. So I put in my card, I
Oh,
pop
okay.
it up, and then I go through each one, and I leave the ones that I want to import with the checks
Check.
on them.
Okay.
And then I import them. Yeah.
That's a valid method as well. So there's a couple of ways to go about it. Does that make sense to everyone, or is anyone confused about what we're talking about?
I just think that Lightroom has great way to just go quickly through them, X them, collections, and all of that. So I just take advantage of all that service.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, nobody's waving their hand that they're confused or need clarification on that. So yeah, a couple different ways to go about it, and we'll do that when we talk about importing. We'll just kind of remind about that. So that's an option as well. You may want to X and reject and delete from disk all your unwanted ones, or do like Brian does, like don't even bring them in, just on the import screen. Uncheck those ones that are duds, so you're not filling up your hard drives in your catalog with unwanted space. Brian, I would encourage you, if you think it's really truly a dud, investigate the use of an X reject and delete from disk.
What's that?
I would encourage you to consider using the X reject and delete from disk if it's truly a dud. So you're not just not importing it, but are you importing from the card or are you importing from your hard drive?
Well, I take my card out, I pop it in the reader.
Okay.
While Lightroom's on, and so then it brings up everything on the card, and I uncheck everything.
Right.
And then I go through each one and I check the ones I want to import.
Okay. And you're letting Lightroom create a file structure for you on your hard drive, as far as like hard drive organization goes for those originals?
So so those, when I import them, they'll show up in my, like my big, huge main catalog.
Mhm.
And then they'll also show up in the, recently just import, like last import.
Right. Okay. So it's more card-based import ingestion of images versus like I'll copy things from a card and put it in numbered folders for originals, Lightroom export, Capture One export, Facebook size, web
Yeah,
size, Instagram
yeah,
size.
I would say, yep,
Okay.
I would say so.
All right. So, Lightroom import dialog box. When we start bringing things in, that was part of what I was asking Brian there. What I do, this goes back to a little bit of our Lightroom management. I'll show you here. This is a good example. This is one of my drives on my desktop here. I got business and family separated. Here's family. Here's my 2020 archive of stuff that is still on my computer. Stuff from before is all archived and off on multiple cloud storage and not even on my hard drives anymore. So here's one that I did today, but you can see I make a folder with that date code, kind of what the gist of what it was, and then who shot it, because sometimes my daughter's busy and I edit her images for her. Must be nice. So here's one from today. I went out to Solomon Farm and just took a few sunflower photos. So I go ahead and make the file folders for myself and populate my JPEGs and my RAWs, and then I leave folders for going through and editing the images. Full size goes in LREXP for Lightroom export folder. And then I've got a Facebook size folder, a web size folder, and an Instagram size folder. So I can specifically resize and tuck it in a folder that I want. And I create these folders first and then throw the images in there. When I go into Lightroom, then I import from, pull this up, I import from my hard drive. So Brian ingests images from his card instead. So just by show of hands, how many people ingest from the card? Okay, that's it. Just Brian and
I missed what you said
how
there.
many people ingest images from the card?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So Brian, and then
What do you mean by ingest?
that you are bringing images into Lightroom and simultaneously copying them to your hard drive, but it's based from the card reader versus copying them and organizing the hard drive yourself before you talk to Lightroom.
Okay.
Yeah, you create a folder first on your computer, right?
Right, or you can have Lightroom create one for you.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I'm not big into that because I think Lightroom's options for creating those folder names are kind of crap, but that's just my opinion.
Okay.
Just my opinion. So there's a couple different ways to go about that. And so within Lightroom, when we go to import things, let me pull up the import dialog box actually in the software. We have your sources over here. You can copy as DNG. DNG stands for digital negative. Oh, well, that's great. Lightroom's being really wonky. So copy as DNG, you can copy to a new location, import, and convert to DNG all in one swoop. So copy to new location is where you're either coming in from a card or you're coming in from a hard drive and you want Lightroom to bring them in and copy them and convert them all in one swoop. That's a lot to do in one shot. Copy photos to a new location and add to catalog. So if you're coming from a card, Lightroom can put them in a new location for you. You can specify. You can move photos to a new location and add to catalog, or you can just add. So add is what I do. I organize all my hard drives ahead of time, copy the images to the hard drive, and then I'm just adding to the catalog. So Brian, this is the one that I was thinking you might want to look at, because it might be an easier culling process for you. Maybe, maybe not. Something to think about. Add is where you would copy all your originals into a folder on your hard drive. That's all organized the way you say. And then once you get in and you're working with things, when you're going through and flagging things, there are some fast shortcut keystrokes that you can use in Lightroom, which we're going to talk about tonight, on how to cull and how to cull fast. Like Brenda was talking about how fast Lightroom is now. It's faster than it used to be years ago. So we'll talk about that. So you bring your images in, back. Previews. How many people do minimal previews? Anybody do minimal previews by show of hands? Or unmute yourself and say, I do. So, I'm sorry, raise your hand again. Denise, Mark does minimal previews. Okay, so that's the fastest, and you can always render your previews later. Embedded and sidecar files. Jerry, you do the Nikon software. Are you doing embedded in sidecar so you get the sidecar files with any of your flagging and ratings and keywords from the Nikon software?
Nope, I don't. Nope,
Okay.
I just drag them in later.
Okay.
Nope, I just keep it straightforward.
Okay.
Would mine be considered minimal or not? I don't know.
Well, minimal is it's not going to create a larger preview of your image right away. You'll have to render larger size previews later. So minimal is the fastest way to get images into Lightroom. If you don't want to pixel peep and zoom in and see that image big and see it nice and clear right away, you can always do minimal. If you just want to get them in there, and then you can go back and render previews later. So like if you're a late at night owl type of person, you could bring them in and do minimal and then say, okay, I'm going to select render previews and then go to bed. And I always joke that Adobe is my best third shift employee because I let it run overnight and do stuff. And I don't want to sit there and watch paint dry, and it's not as bad as video rendering, right? But so sometimes I'll let it generate those previews, and I'll because the amount of images and it's overwhelming with weddings. Sometimes I'll do minimal, and then I use some other tools in Lightroom to organize the images and sort them by sections of the day and such. And once I get through that, then I'll choose to let it render the previews, and then I'll go to bed. But I want to kind of get in and see, I want to look at like my counts and like how many I had from different sections of the day and stuff. And go through and look for sneak peeks and whatnot. And I don't want to wait for it, to render larger previews. So, and again, you can always do it later. Standard is large, but not a one-to-one full size. It's a good compromise between needing larger previews, but not needing to pixel peep super close. Although Brenda is right, Lightroom is a lot better than when I've been using Lightroom since it was in beta and it wasn't out to the public. So that's a long time ago. And it was super clunky at first. It's come a long way. There's still some features, like I was the first one to ask for the local adjustment tool to work with color channels. And I asked for that as soon as Lightroom 2 was announced. It's been on the Adobe forums and has like thousands of comments on my request. Does Adobe listen? No. And they kind of implemented something recently toward that, but it's bad. One-to-one full-size previews, longest wait, but no waiting later. So good if you need to pixel peep and get in close and you want to do some retouching within Lightroom, using the local adjustment brush or the little clone tool if you want to clone out little dust dots and things like that, and you feel confident doing that in Lightroom. or flying between the two. But if you need big full-size previews or pixel peeping, render the one-to-ones, but don't expect it to happen super fast. So I recommend that you make Adobe your third shift employee. So Lightroom has a lot of organizational features. There's the metadata sort panel is one of the biggest things that I want you to take from the workshop tonight, that if you have not investigated this tool and seen what it can do for you, the metadata sort and all of the filtering options at the bottom, just above the film strip, that's the huge takeaway for tonight. So here we go. It defaults to 4 panels, but you can make as many as 8, and you can choose how this is organized, and you can even save this sort as a preset, which is so slick. So let's go in. The shortcut key for this is the / key. So that is just below backspace. So look on your computer keyboard, backspace. Underneath that, you've got the straight up and down line. There's probably a fancy name for what that's called, but I don't know what it is. So, and then you've got the / key. So backspace, /. So everybody see that hiding and being revealed? So / key. So I just always think, I'm just going to lean back. Oh, not like that. I'm going to lean back and be able to reveal that. So there's multiple things. Don't look at these terrible reception end of the night pictures. Get rid of that. There we go. So you can sort by text. And there's a bunch of different ways. If you are an all-in-one catalog person, I'm going to pick on somebody besides, I'm not picking on you, but I'm going to talk about somebody besides Brian's situation. So Jerry has a bunch of his sports stuff. If he wanted to search by text, if he's been a good librarian and a good curator of his sports images, and he has added keywords or sprayed keywords onto different events that he shot, if he wants to search for hockey, Angola, and he knows he's sprayed those keywords on images before in the past, he can search keywords for that. You can also search, you know, any of these other fields, search EXIF, all kinds of stuff. So, but keywords, I think, because I don't rename my files before they come into Lightroom, so searching for by file name, that's not really going to help me as much. Title and caption, I don't add individual titles and captions in my metadata, but somebody who competes and adds things to competitions, Brenda, Brian, anybody else who does that kind of thing, landscape, wildlife, nature type stuff, you might be adding titles and captions to your metadata, and you could search for that. So if you remember the title that you gave an image and you want to find it, this is where you could do that. So I use it mainly for keywords. So Jerry, again, as an example, if Jerry wanted to search for Angola hockey pictures from 2018, he could type in 2018, Angola, hockey. And if he's been a good librarian and curator, you can't search for it if you haven't assigned those terms to those images. So you have to be the librarian. But once you get used to it, it becomes second nature to tag your stuff, and just so you remember how to find it later. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. All right. So attribute, you can search by flagged, not flagged, or rejected. Coming up here in a second, we'll talk about rejects and how that could possibly help Brian with his importing and ingesting situation. You can search by edit status. Turn those off. You can search by star rating. I use star ratings to sort weddings by time of day, like sections of the wedding day, because wedding days have 5 distinct sections, in my opinion. Pre-ceremony, anything in the morning, at the church, whatever, pre-ceremony. Anything happens before the ceremony. The ceremony itself, all the portraits, whether before, after, end of the night, drunk sunset pictures, it's all portraits to me. So it collects those all together when I star them that way. Then you've got reception events, which is usually a certain, that's before they turn all the lights off and you can't see to focus, right? And then the very end of the night, reception fun, that's all your drunk people, dark, needs different noise reduction, is probably shot at a higher ISO, right? So those are the 5 distinct sections that I use with weddings, and that's why I use the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars system in Lightroom to organize. And so it also helps you attack your editing in sections so you can divide and conquer editing. So is there anybody besides me that does weddings in here? We might have other people that watch the recording later, but anybody? Denise, you do weddings?
I have.
Jerry's done some weddings. Brian?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I've done some.
Some, okay. Denise, you're muted, but Denise, do you do just a few or a lot, or smaller weddings, bigger weddings, a little bit of both? Can't hear you. Oh, hold on, she's unmuting herself.
I used to shoot weddings. I shouldn't say I shoot them yet. I'm retired from it, but we did
Okay.
a lot of weddings previously.
Okay. So this, you kind of know what I'm talking about, the number of images. It can be a lot to go in and cull, and it can feel like a daunting task. So, and you could even have like multi-day sports events where you want to be able to sort those images by day, or like I was talking before we officially started the workshop about how I don't like to mess with mini sessions that much. I do them a little bit, but mini sessions are not like a big money maker. You'd have to stack people up like crazy. And it becomes more trouble than it's worth because there's so much client education that goes into a session, and organizing and editing the images and putting them online and dealing with support afterward from people who are computer illiterate, who don't know what they're doing to download, but they don't want to pay you for prints. I'll get off my soapbox. But if I needed to keep track of, you know, let's say this top row of images or the top 3 rows of images, that's one mini session client. I could select all of those and I could put a keyword on them, or their family name or something, or a date and time code that tells when they were on my schedule for the mini sessions. So there's some really cool things you can do in here to organize and sort. That would be more of a text type of thing. Let me go back, and we're talking about attribute. You can sort by color labels. I use this because when we would shoot great big weddings, and I would have myself, my second shooter, and sometimes a third shooter, and we're all shooting with at least 2 cameras, sometimes 3. Like I think the biggest wedding we ever shot, we had 8 cameras going. So I would label, each shooter had their own color, or sometimes multiple colors back and forth between first and second camera. So I could choose, I could see whose images were whose. And I did that also. I would generate a copy of straight out of camera, and then I would generate a copy of all their edited images so they can see, this is how many you shot total. These are the ones I chose to keep. This is how I edited them. And then we would do a review for second and third shooters, like feedback, like this is what you did really well, this is what I want you to continue working on, this is a problem area, this is something I really want you to focus on and learn. But you can use color labels a lot of different ways, and I think it's worth people sitting down and thinking about the type of work that you do and some of the tools that are available, and trying to figure out how can I use these to my advantage to sort my images. So what's somebody else, what type of images you do? I'm trying to think of who else we have here. We have Bernadette. I haven't talked to Bernadette before. Bernadette, can you unmute yourself and tell us what kind of work you do? If she hears me, maybe she's off getting a snack. Anybody else? What about you, Sue?
What was the question?
The question is, what kind of images do you shoot on a regular basis? And so we can kind of discuss a different scenario besides my shooting style and the type of work that I do, and we could figure out like how you could use some of these tools.
Well, I don't know. I just walk around and take shots of whatever a lot.
Okay.
You know, just
Okay. So you could
try to
use.
find things, you know, that catch my eye.
Okay.
Scenery, whatever, you know.
Okay. Well, you could use text. You could assign keywords to help you remember all of a specific type of flower that you've shot, or family stuff. You could tag, you could put a keyword in that's the name of that family member. So later on, you could go and pull all the pictures of a certain grandchild or a certain child in your family, or all the pictures from a certain year.
Yeah, that's what, after I watched your last Zoom show, I put the year and then I put the keywords like flowers and then what kind and, you know, stuff like that.
Yay!
So yeah,
Look at you being a good digital librarian.
Well, I try.
So those are all ideas that you could use. You could also do your stars for as you go through and you edit that, or you're culling for that folder of photos. You can use the star ratings to say, okay, this one's 5 stars is best, or 1 star is best, whichever way you want to go. And okay, that one's a 4 star. Yeah. So it helps you kind of sort by quality. So you can sort up there, and then we're gonna show down here. You can also sort down here above the film strip, and you just have to click. If you want to see all the options, you can click out here to slide it out. You can use this pop-up box. So you can sort whether they're rated or not. You can sort by a specific. If it's equal to 5, you can look for just your 5s. I'm going to sound like a hipster young person now. You can search for your banger images. That's what they call it on YouTube or whatever. I actually used air quotes to just say that. That makes me feel really old. So
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
If you forget to do the keywords when you're importing, can you put the keyword or highlight them all, then put the keyword in, and are you syncing the metadata or the settings?
Well, syncing metadata is all of the embedded like EXIF information and copyright information. Syncing settings is syncing settings from like your develop module, and if you geotag them over in the map module. So let's say Irene's question is, can you keyword later? Yes, you can. If those images are still there, they're still in your catalog, you can click over here in the folder and you can see them. Let's say I hadn't keyworded any of these. Then I can choose individual images and I can add a keyword. What I love to use is the spray tool. So we're still kind of talking about keywording, so I'm going to skip to this and then we'll go back up to this part. So I'm going to turn your attention to the library module, and we're just above the film strip. There is a little icon right here. Everybody see where I'm moving my mouse? Right next to thumbnails, there's a drop-down menu. And let me turn all these off real quick. So see things disappearing from my toolbar? Unless you have a reason for not having one of those on there, like navigate and slideshow or something, if you don't want slideshow on there, I could see where maybe you wouldn't want that. But everything else, you want to load up that toolbar. So that drop-down menu, if anybody's got like dual monitor and they're playing along at home and they're messing around in Lightroom while they're watching this, load up your toolbar. So this is where the load the toolbar section is. This little drop-down menu right in the corner. It's above the film strip, above this filters and secondary filters that slides out. So here they are. You load up your toolbar, and the spray can tool, or they call the painter tool, I call it spray can because it looks like a little graffiti spray can, aerosol can. You can pick this up and you can spray multiple images with keyword, label, flag, rating, metadata, settings, rotation, or target collection. That's Awesome. So if you've never done this before, you can do like a control all. And let's say you want to spray and you select keywords and you want to say this is 2020. I'm going to spray the keyword 2020 on there. Now, if I want to spray more than one keyword, I could just add a comma and add something else. So I could spray that. I could spray hayloft. I could spray. Actually, these are 1 stars. These are from the church. Southwest Church of Christ is the name of the church, and I could spray the couple's last name or the bride's first name, any of that. So anything that would help me remember these images and find them later. So it's, have you ever seen one of those word clouds?
Yes.
Have you ever seen that function? So kind of imagine a word cloud around your images and what words describe these images that would help me remember them later. You know, oh, I can't remember the name of that church, but I remember the name of the bride. Let me search my whole catalog for the keyword, whatever that bride's name is. So, or you can't remember the bride's name, but you remember, oh yeah, I got a really cool picture of the couple inside that church. I can't remember the couple, but I remember it was Southwest Church of Christ. So it helps to keyword your images with multiple, like the more information, the better. So it's like you're giving, like if you were doing something behind the scenes and you were like a Google person, you would be giving your search engine things to grab, things to look for, to find these images. So the more information, the better. So if you've, that was doing all of them. If you are not used to doing this, you could, there's a couple ways to grab images. You can do Control or Command A to do all. And you can also do what you might call it something else. I call it a shift click range. You press and hold the shift key with one image selected, and then you go to the last image that you want to highlight, click that, and then let go of the shift key. So you have to hold the shift key down while you're doing this. Let me do it again, holding the shift key down, and then I go down here to the last one. Come on, mouse. There we go. So that, I call that a shift click range because it reminds me how to do it. I press shift and I hold it. I go to the last one and click it, and it selects a range of images. Shift click range. Call it something else if you want. That works for me. Shift click range. So multiple images. If I wanted to, like these were all from the rehearsal night. So I might, let me make my thumbnails smaller. This is everything from the rehearsal night. So I might spray the word, go to the end there, add rehearsal onto that. So later, if I wanted to go back and search, I could search for rehearsal images at that hall or whatever. So sometimes I have wedding clients call me, like potential clients that haven't booked yet, and they're like, hey, have you ever been to such and such church? What does that look like inside? I'm like, oh yeah, that's really cool. And you know, they have a really nice area outside the sanctuary where they have a full kitchen and stuff. You should see if you can do like your rehearsal dinner there and just bring in catering or whatever. Oh, what does it look like? Oh, I have some pictures of that. Hold on, let me go grab them and I'll send you a few. So if you've been a good digital librarian, you can find them later. So doing the shift click range, and or you can hit Control, and you know, I could grab all these different dress images. I could highlight all these dress images. Some of these are crap, but you get the idea. So here's all these dress images, right? And I want to also spray the keyword dress. And maybe I want to go in later and add another thing, dress. And then this image, these ones, I want to spray dress, comma, detail. This, and don't think of it just as weddings. Think about what you shoot and how you could use this for yourself. So for me, if I wanted to write a blog post later about I'm the type of, you should hire me because I'm the type of photographer that cares about your details. And once your dress is packed and put away by the dry cleaners, you're not going to be able to see all those details and remember it and reminisce with your kids when they get older and they want to see it. So I'm the type of person who cares to stop and get all those little lace details and the fuss and the beading that made you love that dress in the first place. And I'll make sure you have images of that. We'll put them in your album. And because you can't see it once it's vacuum packed in plastic. So I may want to spend the time to keyword things when I have them in the library module so I can search for them later and be able to pull those to write a blog post. Or some of you have seen I use Animoto and I make these little quick, flashy, really catchy 30 seconds to 1 minute slideshows and put them on social media. So maybe you want to pull images for something like that. So a lot of different reasons to do that. So again, that is the spray can tool. And here are all the different things that you can do. I also use this to do rating. So these images have already been rated 1 star for pre-ceremony. But what I could do is I make my thumbnails really small and I just visually identify. Let me put this down. I would make these really small. Let me go back and see everything's greater or less than or equal to 5 stars. So here's like the whole wedding. I want to search for everything that is pre-ceremony, before the ceremony got started. There's some portraits that happened pre-ceremony, but like here's through the first look with her dad. And I do a shift-click range, and I can pick up the spray can and spray a rating of 1 star. I select 1 star. Anything that is highlighted is active, and you just have to spray in the middle of one picture. And they all get 1 star. They already have 1 star, so they already had it. But anyway, that is how you do that. So you can spray the rating, you can spray a color label, you can spray metadata, keywords, anything like that. So has anybody ever used the spray can tool? Or is this new for most people? Anybody at all? You can unmute yourself to tell me if you don't have your video turned on.
It's new for me. I usually do it on import and, you know, label things and all that, but I've not used a spray can. So I just learned something.
Yeah, the spray can tool is really cool because you can put it, whatever you're trying to label, because this is a laborious task. It feels like a lot, and you're like, is this really going to help me later? You know, do I really need to spray these words and all this information on these images to find them later? But I'm telling you, if you are a picky librarian, it will help you so much later. You'll find yourself in situations and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I could go pull pictures from such and such. I can find those now. But if you're not a good librarian, then your bookshelves are a mess. Everything's just kind of willy-nilly, and you're relying on your photographic memory, so to speak, to go and find something on a place on a shelf. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And once you start shooting so much, or you do so many events, or just for yourself, you start shooting so much, it becomes really hard to go find that one bird photo that you know you love, but you can't remember what park you were at or what trip you were on, or you might remember the species of bird, but if you didn't label it, then you're just kind of visually going back through old folders and looking for stuff. How many people have done that? You've looked through old folders looking for a picture.
I'd like to make one recommendation to everybody because my son brought it up to me, and I know all of us are avid photographers with 5 million photos. He asked that I make a folder called Best. And then under best photos, I have my best birds, my best animals, my best landscapes, my best California, my best Arizonas. And he said, because Mom, someday you're not going to be here and I will not go through 100,000 of your photos to find which ones are your best.
Good point.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I thought, you know, he's absolutely right. He doesn't care about all the 10,000 pictures I took at Yellowstone. He's going to want the best, you know?
Right.
So,
the way, yeah, I do a similar thing to you. I do a similar thing as you do. I do a Final Photos 2020
Right.
or Final Photos 2019. And those will just have all my best photos for that year.
Right. And then it's easy to find for competitions, you know,
Yep.
Yeah.
or when somebody's like, I belong to a group where I share my photos and artists use the photos to make paintings. And, you know, somebody's asking for a cardinal photo. Well, oh, I know I got that great cardinal photo. It's in my best birds, you know, and boom, there it is, you know.
So now you have that best broken down. You said like best birds. You have it broken
Yep.
down by subjects.
Yes.
Loosely.
So, yes. So I have, you know, all different subcategories and all of that. I'm very organized in my filing system. But I just thought I'd mention about a best folder because a lot of people don't do that, and I hadn't thought of it before.
Now here's an add-on, which I think that's fantastic. So woohoo! Cheer! Yay for you! High five! High five! So one thing that you could do with your best folder is you could actually import your best folder into your catalog.
Which I've done.
Okay. And then as it is, and I'm just saying that you might already know this, Denise, as more images are copied over and put into that, you can right click on any folder and see over here, I've got synchronized folder. If since the last time Lightroom saw that folder, if there are new images in there, it's going to have parentheses and a number for how many new images it sees. And then you can update Lightroom with whatever new images are in there.
Cool.
So you can synchronize your folder, or if for some reason the folder gets moved or you need to move it to a different hard drive, you could also update the folder location. Instead of bringing it in again, you can tell Lightroom, hey, I moved that whole bookcase over to this wing of my library. So it's over in F hall now, not D hall for your hard drives. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
So that's kind of a cool thing too. So spray can tool, very cool. We're going to head back up here for just a second and go back up to the top in the library module. Keep an eye on time. This defaults to 4 columns that are just like really generic stuff, like the date and the camera and a couple other things. So this is metadata again, and you can choose what you want these different columns to be. There is a drop-down box, and anytime you click up here, you can change any one of these to any of the drop-downs. So if you want to search for by lens, for example, now you can search within just a particular folder, or you can search your entire catalog if you want to search everything. This helps you figure out, let's say you want to see what's your most used lens. You're trying to make decisions about equipment. You want to see, well, how often do I really shoot with that super, super wide angle? Or how often do I shoot with this great big long lens? I don't find myself really reaching for that in my bag a lot. And I wonder if I sold that big expensive sucker, if I could buy a new camera body instead, or put that money toward a new camera body and use more of what I use all the time, if that's something I use infrequently. So that's a way that you could use this information. Or for just any particular folder, any particular outing that you do, any project, you can search and see what different lenses did I use. Maybe you're like me and you drag too much crap with you on a job. And so I'll go back and I'll sort by lenses and I'll ask, you know, show me all the lenses that I used on a particular job. Let me get metadata back up here. So I might see, you know, proportionately at a wedding or on a portrait session, I'm using my 35 and my 50 a lot, but I'm not using my 90. Not as much as I think I do. So it's kind of interesting to go back and look out of your total number of images, how many were shot with a particular lens. Or like you're trying to decide, do I keep my 24 to 70 f2.8 zoom lens, or I'd like to get more light or a shallower depth of field, or, you know, have better low light capability if I went with a prime instead. But which one would better fit me? So within that 24 to 70 range, what focal length am I shooting with most of the time? So you could go back and sort and say, show me all of my images from 2015 through 2020. And maybe that's over here by date. And then you say, okay, I want to see focal length. Show me what focal lengths I've shot at. Or sort by lens. Show me everything I've shot with the 24 to 70 lens, and then show me the focal lengths that I shot on that lens. And then you find out, oh, I shoot around 50. I'm like kind of in the middle all the time with that lens. And, you know, what if I bought like a 51.4? And that would give me better low light capability. I feel really confident that a 50 millimeter lens is what I need because I can see it in my work, that I hang around that focal length a lot. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What aperture you're shooting at. You can also use this to kind of troubleshoot problems. I would use this with second and third shooters with weddings where I was teaching them stuff, where we would do a review phase after we shot an event, and I would have them come back, and sometimes I would just make them videos, or before when I had adult assistants, this was dun dun dun. This is what went wrong section of looking in Lightroom at all your images. And so I would say, okay, you know, let me show you everything that you shot, all these different apertures you shot at. You're staying too wide, and you're not shooting smaller apertures when it's necessary. Let me show you situations where you got yourself into trouble. So you can find some ways to give yourself feedback on your own work. Like I find, and just, you guys probably already know this about me because I've chatted with you before about it on another workshop, or just mentioned it in passing at club meetings last year. I shot like all work and no play, made Kris a very dull person, if that's possible, because you guys know I'm kind of fiery. But so I shot a lot of events, and I shot family stuff just, you know, here in passing, but I didn't do a lot of stuff for me that was creative. Because I was just working all the time, and it's a lot of, I was fighting some pretty serious burnout. So I was so happy to join the club, and I found that I really had an interest in macro photography. But my problem is I don't think to stop down, and macro is so different. You have to really stop down when you get that close to something to get good depth of field. So this has been really telling for me to use, to look and see, oh, I was out shooting flower pictures. Let me look at all the apertures I chose. Am I still doing that? Is that still a thing for me? And yes, it's still a thing. I still haven't learned my lesson. So I'll sometimes I write stuff on my hand right here by my thumb, and then in ballpoint pen, and then I wash it off when I get home because I'm old and I can't remember. Anyway. Shutter speed, if you think you're having an issue with camera shake, or who was it? Was it Jerry? You were helping somebody learn photography? Somebody here was helping. I know there's somebody else in the club. Michelle Stewart has a relative that just picked up a camera, and she was trying to help her, teach her some stuff. Showing your shutter speed is a great way to show somebody. Look at the lens you're using, and then look at the shutter speed. So if you want to pull, have this funnel down as you go across from left to right in this metadata section, you have to highlight what you want. So let's say I want everything from these dates, and that could be a span of years if I wanted to. I want everything from that camera serial number. I want a certain ISO, or I want a certain lens or focal length. Change this to lens. So I want, come on, I want everything from just the wide angle lens. And then I want to see everything, how many shots did I take at a 60th of a second or less. There you go. So that's how you drill down going from left to right, and you make it funnel what it's showing you. So it's going to drill down for you, but you have to use that shift click range, and you have to highlight in each column to make it funnel down the information that it's showing you. So I can say, show me everything from, I'm pointing on the screen like you guys can see my screen. Let me use my mouse. Use your words, Kris. Use your tools. So here's the stuff. Here's the lens. And I can say, okay, show me everything that I shot at these shutter speeds. And then I can look at flagged or unflagged. So I can see the ones that I didn't keep with that lens that were at a slow shutter speed. Like, what situations was I in where I was choosing that slow of a shutter speed, and then I decided they were crap and didn't keep them. So I can figure out, like, what was I thinking and try to fix it for next time. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's more than just, you know, sorting and tagging things and keywording. There's features in here that really allow you to think about your work critically and learn from your mistakes. So, and then just pointing out up here, you've also got filters off. And you can save your current settings as a new preset. So if you wanted to make a preset of a certain search, you can make a preset of that search I just showed. So if I wanted to drill that down and I want to name that as a certain preset, I would say 16 millimeter f 124 slow shutter crap photos. And hit create. And then any event that I shoot, I can go back and I can choose that preset. It's going to be up here in that list that I saved. And every event I shoot, I can go back and I can run that search and have it drilled down for me. So kind of helpful, especially, like, you know, even if you think you have, anybody ever had a lens that needed calibrated and you think it's back focusing, but you're not sure, is it me, is it the lens, what's going on? You could save a search for that lens. And maybe you think it's happening on the wide end or the tele end of the lens. You can run a search for everything above the second half of the zoom range for that lens. So a 70 to 200, you're going to run a search from 135 to 200 for that lens and save it as a preset up here. And then everything that you shoot from then on, you can run that search and you can take a look at those images and try to figure out, am I really seeing that problem or not? So it's kind of cool to have that functionality. Let me go back here. We'll get back on track with this stuff. Attribute sort, we covered all of this. Load up your toolbar. So put this back down. Loading up your toolbar. You can use any of these by clicking on them to sort. Kind of nice to have these tools on there. There are some ways to use letter and number functions on the keyboard to go through this process faster. If you don't have as many images like Sue, you might not shoot as many flower images, and you may just want to use the number pad. And what I would do is on the keyboard, I would put one hand, pointer finger and ring finger are your best friends. Look at me doing that after physical therapy. Hey. Sue, I don't know if you have a number pad on your keyboard or if you just use top row, but I tend to use pointer finger and ring finger on the left and right arrow keys on my keyboard. And I do this. And sometimes I'll make the thumbnails really big. So let's say, you know, these are your flower pictures you're going through. And just based on composition alone, go back and take a closer look at them individually in loop view instead of grid view. But just based on composition alone, okay, that's good. That's a 5. Next one. Rate it. Next one. Number. Next one. Number. Next one. Number. And just flip through all those images. And then you can go back and say, show me everything that is equal to a 5 in that particular folder. So that's a way that you could do things. Brian, we had talked about culling and how instead of unchecking when you do that ingest import action from a card, if you wanted to bring everything in, make these small. Okay, yeah, 5, whatever. Let's get rid of all this stuff. Okay, all my 5s. If I wanted to go through and cull these, What I do is I use my pointer finger and my ring finger on both hands. So everybody look at your computer keyboard. You've got your left and right arrow keys. That is going to be your right hand. Your P and U are going to be your left hand. So if you put your keys on the keyboard, so let's say Sue went through and she rated her flower photos. 5, 5, 5, 4. Oh, that's a 2. Oh, that's a 1. Don't show anybody that. There's a 5. There's a 5. There's a 5. Got my groove back. 5, 5, 5. They're all fabulous. Okay. Then you go into loop view and you decide, okay, out of those 5s, which ones am I keeping and editing? I can't edit all these. That's crazy. So you can go through and no, I don't want people view. No. Only find faces is needed. No, we don't want people view. Okay. Here we go. All right, so if you put your left ring finger on U and your left index finger on P, this is how you can get through Lightroom super fast and choose pick and unpick. And then what I tend to do is pick and unpick, and then I go through everything that's not flagged and choose which ones, if I want to reject them and delete them from disk even. So Brian, this is something that might help you. So you go through and you have your left hand on P and U, left ring U, left index on P, right hand, index finger and ring finger on the left and right arrow keys. So rather than letting, yes, that is a Chucky doll at their wedding reception. They had inside jokes galore during their toasts. So I can just flip with my right hand. I'm clicking my right ring finger on that right arrow key. And this is flipping from image to image. And then I just make a snap judgment. P for pick and U for unpick. And then after I go through the whole string of images, I click here on the secondary filter that slid out, right? I click based on flagged. And so out of all these images, equals.
So P and U means you're just flagging them?
Yeah, P means pick, and that's going to set a flag in your image.
Okay.
So I have to make sure I'm in the DNG folder, not that I use the JPEGs for sneak peeks and then DNGs I was using to edit. So equal to 5 stars and flagged. So out of all the 5-star images, I didn't have that many, a couple dozen, and out of all those, I had 32 that I kept. And incidentally, I also export and rename these specifically. All my sections of the day, I export those, and I do a sequential renumber, so nobody asks me, oh, there's a break between 7250 and 7256. Where are my other 5 images? No. We're not doing that. So yes, P is going to set a flag in the image and select it as a flagged image, or what I call a keeper. So P for pick, and once I activate this filter over here to the side with the little flag checked, that's filtering based on flag status. See that when I hover over it and leave it there, it pops up and it says what that is for. Once I activate that filter, if I unpick something, like if I look at this one and I go, oh, that was a drunk moment, don't need it. I clicked U on that image, and because I'm running a filter for flagged, it disappeared. It's not gone. It's just not in my filtered view of the images. Does that make sense?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, when I'm doing my images, I do use the right arrow key like you do, and I do use the pick key, but I don't understand why you would use the unpick key at the same time. I'm just going through and going pick, 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 pick.
Well, it depends on how decisive you are. So here's the thing. Like for me, I might have 3 or 4 pictures of the couple with mom and dad. And dad's a squinter and a blinker. And so I'm trying to figure out which ones I keep. And so I'll initially pick out of those 4, I'll pick 2, and then I'll go back between them and flip back and forth between them rather than going into compare mode.
Okay.
And then I'll just go, okay, let me zoom in. Let me look at the other one zoomed in. Oh, he's got his eyes closed in that one. I'll unpick it. And because I've activated this filter for flagged, it'll just disappear out of my filtered view.
Okay.
So you might be comparing and flipping back and forth between 2 really similar flower pictures or portraits or whatever. And you initially did a cull, but you're trying to get down to a certain number of images, like, I don't know, mini sessions. The topic of the moment in my household is fall mini sessions and people asking me a gazillion questions about a cheap session. Anyway, this is why I don't do them that often. So if you're trying to get down to a certain number of images for somebody, it's really helpful to just pick just anything that looks like it's a keeper. Just grab it. And
yeah,
then,
I do the pics and then I do the X. So to me, if
Yep.
I see it's blurry, it's a bad picture, whatever. So I kind of, my hand is flexible. I go to,
yeah,
you know, I use the right hand for the arrow and then I'm using either, you know, the pick. And a lot of times I keep my finger on the X because
Yeah.
I'm going, I do nature.
What does the X do?
So the
Yeah,
X is reject.
Yeah, you know, you do 20 rejects in one pick. So, you know, you do the X, 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 X. Oh, that's a pick. Okay, X, 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 X. And, you know, versus, you know, people pictures.
Yeah, so
I'm exactly the same, Denise. X
so you
and-
guys are decisive.
Well, and then, but the unpick is good to hit also if you go,
Yeah,
oh,
if you go, oh.
I picked that one, but this one's better or whatever,
Mhm.
just like you're talking about.
Now,
with
for
your-
me, you guys are much more decisive than me, but for me with weddings in particular, I don't do the reject because I may need to go back and salvage and Scooby-Doo swap out the eyeballs on somebody's dad
Right.
because he told me he was
Yeah.
a squinter, but his eyes were full on closed in those
Because
pictures.
because the X actually deletes it.
It
You-
does
Does
if
the
you
X-
tell it to,
It does if you tell it to.
but otherwise it just sits there with the X and grayed out.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Otherwise you have to go like to the top and you have to go photo, under photo, and then delete all rejected photo.
Yeah.
And it takes them out of your entire system. So that's what I use when all my photos come in. My first time through is XXX because I got the tail of the cat, not the whole leopard.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
I got et cetera. So it's
I
got
think,
nothing.
A mini topic video about culling might
Yep.
be a good thing to add as a tag on to tonight's workshop because time wise we want to be wrapping up here soon. So either I can do it or if anybody else is interested in showing their process as well, I would encourage you to do that. If you don't already have free screen recording software, there's a free screen recording software called ScreenRec. Like screen is short for record, screenrec.com. Unless you're Brenda, who's an OBS Studio Pro now. we got on Zoom last night and I was long distance teaching her how to use some OBS Studio.
Cool.
So that's a little fancier, but ScreenRec, you could record your screen and do a quick 5-10 minute tutorial and show us your process.
Chris saved my butt in business last night with showing me that OBS for a business project.
It's pretty slick.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
it's really cool. I was impressed. Brenda did a great job. So let me go back here, and we've talked about a lot of this stuff, but was there anyone who was using that backslash and using that top columns sort? Was there anybody who was using that already?
I never used the backslash. I didn't know about that.
Were you using that? I mean, were you opening up the panel another way instead of the shortcut key, and you were already using the panel, or not using the panel at all, Brian?
You know, I'm not sure, but yeah, I was not using shortcuts though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Had you sorted using that panel before though at all?
Which panel?
The gray one up at the top. All this stuff, text.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The
Okay.
only thing I was using was attribute,
Oh, okay.
and I would just do stars and flags.
Okay. Fair enough. So we learned a little bit of what's up there. If you want to add more columns, let me go to metadata. The way to add more than the 4 columns, which are there by default, is, and here I've got it full. So I'm going to go to, I've got 2 focal lengths. So, you know, I could remove one of those or set it as something else. So I'm going to set this to aperture. I'm going to set this to shutter speed, maybe, and then set this to the status with the flags and stuff. And then this column I could get rid of. So now I just have 7 columns. So the default is 4. You can have as many as 8, but that's as much as you can get. It's not like you can get like a little scroll and you can just keep going and like filter your stuff all the live long day.
How did you add and subtract them?
Over here on the far right, if you hover over it, it's 3 little lines. It looks like, you know, the menu thing.
Hamburger.
Hamburger, yeah. Hamburger menu. Yep. So
Yep.
add column, remove column. So if we wanted to
Beautiful.
add another column and drag down and say, show me where my flash didn't fire, or I've used this a lot to teach and mentor second and third shooters. I've done like some mentoring and training one-on-ones with people. I have a lady from Michigan I'm mentoring right now. And so we hop on Zoom or GoToMeeting, and then we go over and she shows me her screen and I have her get into her Lightroom catalog and we look for some of the issues that she's having in her shooting and talk about trends in how she shoots and what she can do to be better. So just one way that you can use to search this. The one thing I didn't mention was something that, who's the person who did a lot of video? William Thumb, which I'm not sure if he's still on here. He may have taken off. Did he ditch us to go watch the debate? Anyway.
He left us a message. He left us a message he needed to leave.
Okay, yeah, I'm joking here. So he said he shoots a lot of video. You can also sort by the type of media it is. This is really cool. Originals, virtual copies, and video files. So I know video capability is limited in Lightroom, but that's kind of slick. One thing you can do is you can grab a group of images and create a virtual copy of a whole string of images and then sort just for virtual copies, go back and find them, apply a black and white preset, and then sync that edit across all those images. Boom, 2-3 clicks instead of creating one by one black and white. One, black and white. So that's kind of slick. If you, like, I'm not the type of shooter that gives everybody a second copy of all images in black and white. That's terrible, in my opinion. It's too much work, and black and white still need tweaked. Like I have wedding clients who ask for that. Oh, this person offered us that. And I'm like, well, that person's stupid, first of all. Second of all, and I'll tell them that. Second of all, not all black and whites are created equal. You're probably getting some crappy newspaper gray stuff that looks awful. So, you know, I talk about digital darkroom and developing the photo and tweaking the levels by color channel. So skin is an accurate representation of brightness within the scene, and there's good contrast. And so black and white is not just desaturate everything and make it gray. Different tones of gray, white to black, and there's a lot of gray in there. So I try to educate people that not every photo is a good candidate for black and white, but if you want to create mass black and whites, or you want to create a second edit of images and apply a specific preset, like just all the first dance pictures, I know those were shot in the same lighting, and so if I make a decent edit on the first one, then I can sync to all the virtual copies and make a black and white of them. You could do that. So it's kind of nice to be able to see all your virtual copies, or maybe just look how many virtual copies you created. So sometimes I'll take a photo and I'll crop within a photo to create a second one. It's like a bonus. Yeah, I shot a close-up like right after I shot that first one. I'm that good. So like a first dance photo. Let's say this terrible end of the night photo is a first dance photo, and I would do an additional crop that is a closer up or is a different orientation. I'll do a horizontal out of a vertical photo or vice versa. So sometimes interesting to see how many virtual copies you did. Anything else as we wrap up? Lightroom divide and conquer editing. Using some of these tools with, like Brian had mentioned, he had gotten in and he had used the stars, and you can use color labels. That's really slick. I blend my images together. Anybody else shoot 2 cameras or more on an event or at a shoot instead of changing lenses? Brenda? Anybody else? Who was the other person?
I shoot
Jerry.
two cameras all the time.
Brian? Okay, yeah, Jerry does all the time too. Okay, so what I do at weddings, we used to take a picture of my license plate or stop sign or something, but then I went to taking pictures of my feet. So the very first picture I take at the beginning of the day is a picture of my feet, both cameras. And so if I had multiple shooters, we'd stand around in a football huddle, and I'd say, okay, camera 1, everybody grab your camera 1, set it to auto. I don't care if it's dark. I don't care if it's too bright. I just need a picture of your feet. So I could see your shoes, and I know whose camera it is. I knew by serial numbers too. But we take a picture of our feet, and then I would spray color labels on everybody's individual cameras and stuff, so I could see whose pictures were whose. And I want all of those pictures in together in the same folder for consistency's sake. I want to know that what I edited from camera 1 matches what camera 2 was shooting, and vice versa. So
That's a good idea.
sometimes there is a slight color shift difference from lens to lens. So camera 1 might have had a certain lens on it. Camera 2 has a different lens on it, and it has a slight magenta shift or a little yellowy thing, and you're trying to make it match. You want to see which image was from which camera. So I use those color labels to denote which camera. So when I'm shooting by myself, red is my main camera, and I love me some label maker. I love labels. So camera 1, camera 2 is always yellow, red, yellow. It's contrast. It's easy to see. So, and what I do is I do a metadata overwrite, and I can make you guys a video on how to do this. You got to make sure you have separate folders for those images first, and then copy and paste them into a combined folder. Always keep your separates, so in case you screw it up, you have something to go back to. But I do a metadata overwrite, and I force a chronological mesh based on the clock for the master camera. It's awesome. And so if you took a picture within a second or 2 of each other, whatever, even a couple seconds, and you don't have an old crappy camera that has clock drift, you can metadata mesh those images and make them fall into chronological order, and you can see them right next to each other. Red, red, yellow, 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 red, red, yellow, red, 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 yellow, red, red, yellow, 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 on down the line. It's really cool. And it helps for consistency when you're shooting with 2 cameras. So we could talk about doing that. That's really cool. We talked about photo mechanic or a third party, using Lightroom to call. And then the last few slides are just reminding you some points to think of as you go back and you try to apply this knowledge to your own workflow. And I'm not going to read all these to you. You guys are adults. And then there were just some questions from me on, I would really like some feedback from you on the workshops that I present to you, even if I help host and we have another person, I would like to collect and get feedback from people. We might put some polls on the members group maybe, but I'll even take private feedback via Messenger or an email or something, to just tell me what was most useful for you. What was the main point that you got from the workshop? Was there something that you really loved? Something that you think is so basic that I shouldn't even have covered it? Kris, you say all the time. It drives me crazy. Can you please stop that? What topics would you like to see covered more in depth? Longer or shorter videos? Like if I add a little zinger onto a workshop and I say, hey, we touched on this, but I want to show it more in depth. Here's a 10-minute video. on how to do that metadata overwrite. Or here's a 10-minute video on how to create a preset of your drill down on the metadata in the library module. What, you know, do you want to see like a 5-minute limit, or do you want me to be like, get to the point, lady? 2 minutes. You got 2 minutes of my time. That's it. So please give me feedback. I really want to, and you can be brutal with me. Like nobody, I beat myself up something awful about everything. Like just tell me what you really think. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Here is a list of resources and links for everything we discussed so far. There is a lady, this is my last thing, I swear, and then we're done. There's a lady that they call the Lightroom Queen. All hail the Lightroom Queen. Victoria is the undisputed Lightroom Queen. She kicks, I know, Brenda, you love Scott Kelby. He's funny. He's a super nice guy. But Victoria kicks Scott's butt in every regard for Lightroom. She is so tweaky knowledgeable on Lightroom. It's just amazing. I highly recommend her books. Now, was it Photoshop World? All that stuff is coming out in October, right, Brenda? All those Photoshop conferences, they usually do a bunch of that stuff in October.
They both already happened because they canceled. They just did Photoshop World in June and Landscape World in last week.
Okay, so usually if a new edition of a book on software is going to come out, it's going to come out after those. So I always hold off buying the new edition, whether I buy it digitally or in paperback or something. I always wait until those conferences are done. So I get the latest version that has new information added about that software. So sometime here in October, if you're looking at picking up a book about Lightroom, Victoria is awesome. And so I've included links to her community forum group, and then her list of keyboard shortcuts, a bundle that she has on Lightroom, which includes the cloud version and the classic version, who the KonMari lady is, if you're curious about my jokes. Info to read more about RAID, which is something Brian and I can have a discussion offline about, or separate from tonight. Brian and I were going to have a discussion about backing up his catalog and RAID and stuff with hard drives. So there's several videos listed, YouTube, photo mechanics software. Jerry, if you could message me, would you message me and send me the name of that Nikon software so I can add that to this?
Oh, sure. Hang on for just a second.
So I'll put that on my list, and I'll get this updated and export the updated PDF, and I'll send it to Jerry to send out to members, and then I'll post it as a file on the Facebook page under the Files tab, so everybody can get the PDF from the slides. And that's everything that we talked about 2 weeks ago, about Lightroom organization and coming up with a naming convention. Anybody, Sue's no longer with us on the Zoom, but has anybody done any KonMariing of their hard drives? Brian? Seriously? Yay, good for you.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you know, like I've been just trying to go through and actually just get rid of a lot of, you know, pictures that I'm just like, you know, so.
It's a lot, this digital life that we have. It's, you know, we have so much digitally, like me, I'm like, I love physical books, but I have so many. It's crazy. So, you know, I've got Kindle and stuff, but thankfully all that's managed by, you know, that application and buying things through that store. I can always go back and download those again.
It's really interesting, though, to hear everybody's methods of importing their photos and culling them. That was really interesting, actually, just to hear the few people that, you know, mentioned how you do it.
Yeah, and I would encourage all you guys, that ScreenRec software, screenrec.com, go get that, and, you know, look at you, you're tech savvy, you got microphones happening, you got webcams, so screen record and upload something to the member page and show us your process and share a little bit. I think that'll get everybody involved in asking questions and learning new things. And you might see something that somebody else is doing that answers a question in your own mind, or like, oh, show me more about, let me go ask that person, show me more about how you do that, Brian. And somebody else's workflow might really mirror what you're doing really well, and we can learn from each other.
Thanks so much, Kris.
Yeah, well, hope we came right in on time. So that was a lot of listening to me talk. So bless you guys for being patient. But I encourage you to get in there and try some of this stuff, and think creatively about the feedback it can give you on your images, let alone that searchability. But, you know, think if there's any kind of issue you're having with your shooting, like my little I don't stop down enough for macro habit. You know, think if there are any bad habits that you have that are bugging you, and see how you can use those filters to find those images and figure out what's really going on here. How can I fix this? It's really powerful. And I still can't remember to stop down enough. I've come up with, I'm just going to write it on my hand, aperture, when I go out to shoot flower pictures, because I can't remember otherwise. Maybe someday it'll become second nature, but I've only been in the club since September, and I used to just do all business stuff and occasional my own family pictures. So I'm trying to be a little bit more artsy fartsy.
That's cool.
So until then, on the hand, I used to write LCD. Anybody else ever do that? Do you ever turn up your LCD when you go outside, and then you forget to turn it back down when you're inside, and it screws you up?
Oh, yeah.
Are you chimping? Anybody else chimp? And then you get you're like, oh, I forgot to turn the LCD back down. And now it's giving you a false sense of security that your exposures are good and everything's like a stop or two underexposed. I write LCD on my thumb right there.
Oh my gosh.
That's silly, but that's a habit that my daughter has now. She has a little ballpoint pen, several, that she keeps in her camera bag, and she always writes LCD on her hand when she's outdoors. So she always, when she puts her camera away, she fixes the LCD brightness back.
You need to get a hoodman. So do you have a hoodman?
Yeah, well, this is before we went mirrorless. Now, you know, you can look in your EVF, and so the brightness, you're not thrown off by the brightness of the back screen. So I always tell her, just play back on your EVF. Don't. But before we were all mirrorless, like me, my daughter, and her fiance all completely jumped ship and changed all of our camera gear out.
So I have the hoodman, so that way you're looking, you know, you're not messing.
I picked up that hood. I picked up that hoodman as well. Yeah.
Do you like it, Brian?
What's that?
Do you like it?
I used to
I love it.
Shirt. I used to put my camera inside my shirt.
When I'm out taking bird photos in nature, usually it's sunny out in the middle, you know, or, you know, it's sunny out and it's just too bright to see the photos. So that hoodman really helps.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I was joking. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I used to put my camera inside my shirt and do one of these when I was outside.
That'll work too.
just write LCD on your hand.
Yeah.
Remind yourself. So yeah, lots of good best practices that I think we learn from each other. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
That a hoodman's not on my radar anymore, and I was always carrying so much junk with me that, you know, writing it on my hand was easier than carrying something, because I had so much stuff on me for weddings.
Yeah.
But you know, if you're just going out and you're not carrying a gazillion things on your body, those hoodman things are great. They're not that expensive, right, Brenda?
$120 before they go on sale or something. There's a couple different versions.
Yeah, I don't even think it was like maybe, I don't know.
Well, there's knockoff versions too. You can get like a knockoff loop that maybe doesn't have the magnification.
You want the magnification, because that gives you the real, whether did you get the center of the flower in focus, or did you get the stem in focus?
So you definitely want the magnification.
Yeah, that plus your zoom in.
Yeah, they make one that just collapses, so it's very nice packing wise, but it doesn't have magnification. So in my mind, that's not a help.
Cool.
Yeah.
You know what? That's I'll grab a couple of things. If you don't mind, Brenda, message me, and if you happen to know what that's called besides just Hoodman, if you can.
That's the brand of it, but I can send you
Yeah,
that.
see if you can look, and we'll start adding some best practices stuff. I might see if there's a way to I added a document with my contact information. I don't know if anybody else has added theirs on the member page on Facebook, but it would be cool for us to have like a group edited document that we all had access to, where we could add like all our favorite products or software or whatever.
Yeah, well, all of our personal information is already on the critique site, including your phone number and your email for when you signed up. You know, you can see all that with members, but that doesn't have all your, and it has your, on your profile, you can put your equipment and all of that. But it's not, it's as you can see, it's hard to get people to do anything in the first place, let alone like video stuff.
Right.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking, like, if people just send it to me, even maybe I could add something. I could add a document that's updated, and then just continually update and generate a new PDF and upload it and replace it. That has like all of our favorite stuff.
Oh yeah, because the lists like that really do help, because that's how you just find out about things. Like, I didn't know what the heck a Hoodman loop was, and I didn't even know about it, and then I learned from Brenda and Charm, and then I went home. I didn't know what the name of it was, and I went home and I actually Googled it, and if you don't know the name of that thing, you cannot find it.
Yeah, and you use like different words to describe it, and you're still not going to find it.
I'm like, what is this thing that I'm describing? And so anyway, those lists really do help though, because it's just nice to see what what everybody else uses, and what's their favorite equipment, favorite programs for on the computer, whatever.
Yeah, some Nikon people might not even realize that Nikon thing is there that functions kind of like Photo Mechanic that Jerry says, that he uses.
It might be fun to do like your skip lenses, skip cameras, just do
all the other stuff.
Like the Platypod is one of my favorites, or your favorite bag, or why, why is it your favorite bag? Like, what does it have the others don't have?
Yeah. So a list of people's favorite things, favorite equipment, or programs or whatever, and then a little something of why. So it's almost like a little a review of products.
But don't you think it needs to be like gear, like small gear? Like we don't want Lightroom, and we don't want Photoshop or whatever.
Oh,
all the big stuff, but like all the peripheral things.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
we don't want
bags.
a fight over this lens versus this lens, that lens.
I have a favorite guy who makes flash modifiers. And I am full in on. I own multiples of everything MagMod makes, but there's this other guy who makes flash modifiers. That's like a special thing. This guy.
Well, no, those were really cool. I remember those that you had.
Yeah, was it the white bendy thing, the plastic thing?
Yeah.
I was talking about, the Fwpc. Every time I've ever showed somebody a Fwpc, it's blown their mind.
Yeah, and so I mean, like a lot of people, they could really benefit from that, because it's probably inexpensive too.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff is. I mean, you can accumulate a lot of expenses on little things. Mark, you're so quiet.
Oh yeah.
But. Hi, Mark.
But yeah, so maybe we should start this kind of like list of people can send their suggestions or their favorite things or something.
And then we can have a workshop about that. I mean, we'll have to see what do you know, Brian, what Doug's got? I mean, because we need to announce it. It's in 2 weeks.
Oh, let me see. It looks like he did get back to me. Hold on. I'm reading it right now.
But we could call it the show and tell.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I like show and tell.
That would be cool. Okay, so this is what Doug says. Working with Lizzie on a macro workshop that will tie into an outing to Pokagon State Park. and then he's just asking what this meeting was about, but he must have forgot, So, so that's what he's doing. He's working with Lizzie on a macro workshop that will tie into an outing to Pokagon State Park.
So that's not going to be the next, it's not going to be the October meeting because our meeting's from 7 to 9. So
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think what he's planning on doing is in Zoom, you can play a video for somebody. So he can play pre-recorded content and then we can discuss it.
Oh, but it sounds like as I read it, like we were gonna go out and do a workshop with macro.
Yes.
I'll ask
So
him.
Doug was talking about this summer. Doug had talked about doing a thing where we do a workshop and then we do practical application and do an outing. And so he wants to see more social interaction with the club and more applying the skills we're learning. Like I had talked about Mark and Larry Kilgore, and there was another person, Steven Zabrecki, who does astrophotography, and like doing a winter thing that we could do outdoors would be, hopefully decent, halfway decent, not too crazy weather. We could go and do, here's how you do just a wide field image and manually focus at infinity for the night sky and how you do all that. And then here's if you want to hook it up to a telescope. If you've never seen how that works, here's how you do that. And so we do a little meeting and we have these guys come on and teach us. And then we plan ahead of time, like the next week after that, the next weekend we go, or a couple weekends after, we go and actually do it. So we apply everything we learned. So I think that's what Doug's thinking.
Okay.
So, okay. So yeah, I'll find out just exactly what he's going to
teach it, do it.
Be doing on that night. Okay.
Yep. Of course, the problem is COVID. So.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I think if we're outdoors and we're all masked up, that's a very low chance
to each other.
Yeah.
You don't have to be close to each other.
Chris, do you have a date for your Halloween thing? Is that a paid club thing? Are you doing that for outside of the club?
I just wanted to have fun. So out at Fox Island, there's this tree stump that fell over and the roots are up showing, and it's like 5-6 feet around of like gnarly tree roots, kind of in a rough circle shape. And so every time I'm out there, I look at that tree and I'm like, thank goodness they haven't cut this thing up or dragged it away or whatever, because it looks really cool. And I just keep imagining rays of light coming out from behind it with like color gel on it, like blue color gel, and do like spooky person in front of it posing. Yeah. So no, I not necessarily a paid thing, just for fun. So I was thinking maybe the 11th. I really want my daughter to do it, so I'm trying to make sure she has the day off.
But they close like at 5, right?
They 7.
Okay.
I think it's 7. And I can double check that. It's $2 to get into the park unless you have an annual pass. And what we can do is I have a set of adapters and I have 2 77 millimeter variable neutral density filters. So we can pass around a variable neutral density if we have to. Or people could use high speed sync if they want.
This is going to be on a weekend?
I think so, because a lot of people have a day job. So I think
that would be the best.
A weekend would be better.
And we talked about doing like a 5 o'clock shift, a 6 o'clock shift,
to keep people spaced. Yeah. So we don't have everybody out there and just standing in the parking lot waiting for a chance to shoot.
And like I've got NDs, so I can, a lot of us will have NDs, so I can do the earlier shift and darken it up.
So Kris, when can your daughter do it?
Let me check with her and see how far out her schedule is. Her manager lady got put off for 10 days because she got exposed to COVID. Even though she tested negative, they still made her stay off work for 2 weeks. Yeah. So things have been a little crazy with her work. So I'll check with her and see how far in advance she knows her schedule. Okay. I really want to do it. And Deb Saley has a fog machine.
You could just send me a message, or send Brenda and me a message or whatever when you know a date, and then that way we can just set it up,
I know Basil is also doing, he's so kind of a beginner photography wise compared to some of the rest of us that he's only been at this for about a year and a half. And like up until the past couple months, he was using like a paint shop program for editing. So like he's very new to things, but he's so creative and just has wacky ideas. So he has a shoot on the 10th, Saturday the 10th. There's all kinds of models doing like horror movie themed stuff.
Oh yeah.
You've probably seen a few
is
of
it a
those.
group? It's the group shoot.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know
think.
how open he is to other people jumping in on that, but shooting with him is always really, really fun. I'm going up to a thing in Kalamazoo, Michigan that next weekend with him, and we're gonna road trip carpool together.
I've shot at a group shoot with him before, and at his house, and it's pretty fun. He's a good guy. Yeah.
So I will check and we'll see if we can make it happen. And if not that Sunday, as soon as I know a Sunday that she has, we can try to set something up. Because it's been in my mind forever.
That sounds good.
I'm just determined. I want a spooky, foggy, witchy tree stump.
And I haven't done anything like that yet this for Halloween. So that sounds good. Well, just let me know then. Okay. Cool. When you find something out, when we can probably schedule doing it. And other than that, I don't have anything else really.
I know some people Jerry was real quiet tonight. Irene's still with us. She was quiet. Mark, you're like not a peep, but this winter, I so want to pick your brain.
Night was about organization. You don't want my input.
I am like crazy organized with all the stuff on my computer. I think selective OCD is a thing. I really do. Because I'm nuts about that. Like, has to be done. And then other stuff I don't care about at all.
You and Brenda have similar personalities, like of my wife too. Yeah. But yeah, and I'm total opposite of that.
Was it everything has to be super organized?
Chris, I was telling Chris because like I need help with backing up some of my how to back up some of my stuff and just different things like that. And when it comes to technical stuff, no, I'd rather just do the artistic part and the photography part, and that's it. But you gotta do the technical stuff too.
It's weird because I am not a neatnik person. Not a neatnik person, but man, when it comes to like, I can't stand it when things are not organized on my computer. And I love office supplies. I get office supplies in my stocking at Christmas time, which is, I love it. Like, I won't eat the candy, but could you give me cute paper clips? Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's funny.
So all that stuff has to be organized, but other than that, like, my kitchen drawers can be chaos. Don't care. So, all right. Well, anything feedback-wise, again, just reminding you, feedback-wise, please send me some kind of feedback. That's really helpful. I know I need to be more concise, but you can remind me. It's okay.
And I will say this for Brenda, make sure you guys get onto the website and do your entries and the critique corner, right?
Okay. I'll enter something for critique. If I enter something for competition, it's just so everybody can have a good laugh.
Do it.
Well, Chris, if you would just critique photos, you don't have to even put them
No, I want you to enter photos in there too.
Well, it's not her thing, and I appreciate that some people don't want to do that, but
I know.
I just don't think I have anything good enough to enter for that because come on. I just recently started trying to do things to be artsy for me and not be so focused on work.
It would be a nice surprise to see some of Chris's stuff.
You could just enter one and open. It could be a wedding photo, your favorite wedding.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So and just give it a shot. But anyway, if you also, your critiques would be really helpful because most people don't get critiques. They just go like it, and if they don't like it, they don't know how to day.
I always have something to say. It's just whether
Yeah,
whether or not.
Yeah,
you-
that would be nice. If
but
you
I
did say
can
that.
do it in a very positive way. You know, here's
Yeah.
some good stuff. Here's some things you might want to think about or work on,
Yep.
whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Kris.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
a
Thank
lot.
you for all your business help. That was enormous help.
That
It was a 2-week nightmare.
That was fun. Anybody else
That's
who wants to
awesome.
learn OBS Studio? It's like software. It's free software that does the job of thousands of dollars live video switcher.
I was paying
Oh.
$109 a month
What?
for my GoToMeeting software, my webinar
Yeah.
software.
Yeah.
And it didn't do it at all. And her free software did it instantly, like way better than we thought.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I mean, well,
Wow.
you know, not my, but just something I knew about. But yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
so
we're using OBS Studio a lot and my husband is using it a lot to make videos for teaching. He teaches music still here in town, and he does a lot. He's not the tech coordinator at his school, but he does a lot of helping out and helping.
I need to show this to my wife then too, because she's a teacher and she does all that. You know, she does a lot of technical stuff integrated into the way she does, you know, her teaching and all of that.
Yeah,
So,
this has like unlimited amount of multicam. So one thing I'm doing is I'm getting ready to switch to a different, because I don't have enough room for these 3 monitors on my desk. So I'm going to get an L-shaped desk, and we're going to reorganize everything, and I'm going to have camera mounts clamped onto my desk. So I have a camera mount that is at me, and I'm going to use my mirrorless camera so it looks nice instead of this crap webcam.
yeah. Oh,
And
nice.
I'm going to have one that is mounted down over top of my keyboard and my loop deck board. I made a little video about this guy.
Yeah.
I love this thing. Sometimes
I've seen those
just
before.
spending the money on the item, saves me so much time. It is not even funny, and saves me frustration, saves me repetitive strain injury on my body.
Well, you should put that on the list of favorite things then.
Yes, it will go. It's $250, but it's so worth it. So I wish I had this years ago when I had shoulder damage and had tiny little T-Rex arms, and I was just editing for other people. I edited for like resort photographers that did weddings in Mexico.
Uh-huh.
You don't want to do that.
Well, I have one of these, but I haven't gotten used to like using it for editing. Like a Wacom board.
Yes, Wacom. Oh, anybody else use? You guys use a Wacom?
Yeah. I can't work without it, Brian. You'll love it when you get the hang of it. You can really control where you're turning and dodging and coloring.
I need to force myself to use it. So somebody said to just try to force yourself to use it every day when you're on the computer. Like, so at night after work, if I'm on the computer, just use this as the controls and stuff. And then you'll get used to just using it all the time.
Yeah, you can use it to scroll down a page or even.
Yep.
My suggestion is to take a picture you don't care about and do stuff on it. Like, because then you don't care.
A lot of those.
Yeah.
Overshadow or, you know, paint it oranger than you want, and you know, opposed to like you're doing your important photo and you're like,
especially using like your local adjustment brush in Lightroom, and using that pen is so nice. I use that and I do auto mask and click the overlay on, and you can see right where you're brushing, and then I go, oh, I accidentally got on the hair, erase, click, click. Take it off, go back to the A brush. Oh, it's amazing.
That's cool. Well, listen, I got to head out,
Yep.
everybody. So we should probably call it. But yeah, well, we talked about some good things. Let's go off of that.
And you know what? If we hit a workshop lull in November, show and tell would be great.
Oh, yeah.
that would be really fun.
Yeah,
and timely because it's right before the holidays. You can put that on your list. Like, hey, everybody, give me a hood man.
Have a wish list workshop. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I like that.
Good one to send to Doug. Somebody should send that idea to him.
I'll send it to him because I got to coordinate with Doug
Okay.
anyway. I'll mention it.
Do
We'll
that.
see if we can get it on the schedule and make it happen.
Yeah, do that. That would be cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
All
Thank you
right.
for doing that.
Thank you guys. Bye,
All right, we'll
Mark.
see ya.
Quiet, Mark. I'm gonna keep bugging you. I'm gonna talk to you about December.
As long as you put pictures in tomorrow and Chrissy.
Okay. I'll go look and see. I'm not. They're crap. I might comment on critiques first
That would be awesome.
because I still think all my photos are terrible. But
Come on.
No.
Anyway,
All right,
Mark,
I'll
don't-
see you
don't
later.
miss it. Bye.
Okay.
Good night,
Bye.
everybody.
all right. Bye, guys. Good night.
See y'all.
Talk to you later.